Welcome to the MarkZDrums Drumcast. I am your host, Mark Zapata, the owner and founder of MarkZDrums. You can find out more about MarkZDrums on MarkZDrums.com, Mark Zapata Drums on YouTube, MarkZDrums on Patreon, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can find out more about MarkZDrums. One day I will tell the story of MarkZDrums, but that day is not today. Today I come to you very grateful. My co-host Louie and I, where is he? My co-host Louie and I welcome you to the MarkZDrumcast. I come to you very grateful. We are going to explore the incredible strength of silence on this episode. But first, you know how I say on the MarkZDrumcast, it's not all about drumming and drums. It's about life. It's about coffee reviews. Pete's Coffee, very good. Also check out Whiskey Morning Coffee from Texas. They have a jalapeno blend. They have a cinnamon blend. All great stuff. Whiskey Morning Coffee, check them out. It's about movie reviews. Well, I haven't seen any movies lately. I'm looking forward to going to see The Creator, though, this week. And life lessons. So, how does my next story tie into the incredible strength of silence? Well, let me just say, life happens, right? Things happen. Some things transpired today that almost prevented the Drumcast from going live, which is not a big deal, everybody would understand. But when I say that life happens, things do come up. How do we handle things when they come up? Unexpected things, I mean. Unexpected things that cause us problems in our lives, that cause us stress and anxiety. How do we deal with them? I got silent. I got quiet. I took a breath. I pet Louie because he always brings me a sense of calm. And I got quiet. And what I did was I thought about the situation. I gathered information. I decided on a course of action, and I took action. Not always easy when something comes up that's unexpected, that's a stressful thing, that threatens the airing of your Drumcast, right? You all know what I mean. But there's also another layer to this, right? While I got silent and I was able to, and believe me, listen, I'm not always able to do this, but I was able to get silent, take a breath, think about the situation, think about my options. So there's another layer to this. Decide on a course of action and take action. What if there is no action to take? Many times in life, things happen that are out of our control that we can do nothing about. That in itself is a course of action if we can recognize that there is nothing we can do right now. That itself is a course of action. That acceptance of what is. I can do something about it tomorrow. I have to wait for this. I can't do anything right now. All of those things help us to find calm in the situation and say, okay, nothing I can do about it. Okay? As you can hear, my landscapers are on the job, which is great because my lawn looks amazing. And, you know, we're winding down. It is now fall, I guess, right? And the leaves are falling. It's beautiful outside. But anyway, once we can recognize whether or not we can take action and then take action, we can most times resolve the issue calmly, excuse me, like I did today. And the show goes on because I didn't make the situation worse. I didn't exacerbate the problem by, let's say, flying off the handle, jumping the gun, going off without thinking and evaluating the situation, deciding on a course of action and taking that action. So that ties into the rest of the video or the rest of the Drumcast today, because we're going to be talking about silence and how, when we're faced with the choice of what to play, how silence is an option. We don't always have to play notes. And we certainly don't always have to play a million notes, and that silence is an option. And sometimes silence can be very, very powerful. Silence can immediately grab people's attention. Think about this. You're hearing a song, it's loud, it's crazy, it's fun, it's exciting. The band stops. Boom! Dead silence. That immediately grabs people's attention. It's jarring, and it's super, super interesting. But I'm not talking about that. That's an extreme example. I'm talking about silence within our playing. Understanding that the spaces and the absence of sound is just as important as the notes that we do play. The space between the notes. Neil Peart talks about his studying with Freddie Gruber, and how he talked about the silence and the space in between the notes where there's nothing, and how important that is. So let's talk about that. I'm going to break this down, and by the end of this episode, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. The other day, we did some work on different types of ways to approach an eighth note groove, an eighth note beat, a rock beat, a basic, AC/DC Back in Black, Michael Jackson, Billie Jean type of groove, right? Just a very steady 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we talked about the different ways we can structure the bass drum and the snare drum with this eighth note hi-hat being constant and steady. How many different ways we can play the bass drum and the snare drum to come out with very different feeling rock beats, even though they are eighth note rock beats, because the hi-hat is playing on eighth notes. So I came across another example of this, and I want to talk about a couple of different songs, right, that I sometimes use when working with my students, and I use these songs to illustrate these ideas. I love players, and I think we're going to go back a little bit too, because there's another song that I remembered what it was. If you watched a couple of shows back, I was struggling to remember the name of a song, and I put it in the description after the show had aired. But I also want to illustrate it now that I know what it is, the way I wanted to back then with the music. So there we are. Here we get started on the Drumcast. Thank you all for tuning in, whether you're tuning in right now live on the East Coast. It is almost 1 o'clock. It is a beautiful day. We finally got past this rain that we've had for probably the past week or so plus. The sun has come out, the clouds have broken, the earth has been nourished with moisture and hydration. And so now we are ready to move forward. And let's talk about, maybe many of you are familiar with the song that I played starting the Drumcast today. It is called Sweater Weather by The Neighborhood. And again, let me just shout out to my students, because my students are absolutely killing it. And I couldn't be prouder. I'm actually now working with a new student band. And, you know, my approach to working with these student bands is that I want to give them the tools that they need to be successful. I want to teach them how to run their own rehearsal. All right, I'm not there to babysit. I'm there to show them how to communicate with each other, how to rehearse, how to decide what needs to be rehearsed, what needs to be worked on, how to, yesterday, for example, we were mapping out songs, intro, verse, chorus, all of that stuff. It's a valuable tool for them to learn, because for the foreseeable future, they will be learning cover songs. And with everything else they have going on in their lives, and I know they are very busy, this is just a tool to make their lives easier. Listen to the song, write it out. Number one, that's going to help you retain the song better if you're writing it out. It's just like when they talk about taking notes in class. It helps you retain the information better if you're writing it down. So if you're listening to a song and you're writing out the sections, that's going to help you remember the structure of the song better. So that's what we were doing yesterday in one of my band rehearsals. And just teaching them to communicate, to work together. Maybe one member of the band, the guitar player, maybe knows the song really well. They've played it before. They can help the bass player to go through the parts, or vice versa. You know, we have a couple of different drummers in the band, and they help each other out. I work on their songs with them, but I mostly work on the techniques that help them learn the song, right? I don't really teach them the song. I teach them how to learn the song. There's a big difference. So anyway, I cannot give them enough props. They work really hard. They sound great. And they're very, very dedicated to what they're doing, which is amazing. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've gotten exposed to so many different great songs that they are listening to today. I'm a metalhead at heart. I grew up listening to metal. That is my number one genre that I love the most. Hard rock, heavy metal. But there's a lot of great music out there of different genres. Not quite as heavy as I like, but there's a lot of great musicianship in these songs and a lot of cool things happening. And I'm really grateful that my students now are really gravitating towards the bands that are out there, the bands that are coming up, the people that are playing instruments on stage, playing instruments in the studio and all of that stuff. You know, let's keep all of that going. And sure, a lot of them do enjoy the pop music, the stuff that's computer generated, but hey, let's keep playing instruments, right? That's what I'm all about. That's what I'm here for. So I'm going to put this song on, and if everybody can listen to this and let me know what they think. Let's get a count. I really want to know what's happening in the beat. And let's put this song on it, and let's do like a little listening exercise. What's up, Jerry? Welcome. All right, take a listen to this. We're not quite ready. Take a listen to this. And take a listen to this. Okay, here we go. Yes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 'Okay, so there's the opening of the song. It changes at the end, and now this live is going to be banned in Russia, I think. Have at it. Jerry, yes, right? I used to have, right, because I played a lot of double bass, and I did not always want to play the ride cymbal while I was playing double bass. I wanted to play some hat with my double bass at times. And I would either have a drop clutch where I could hit the clutch with my drumstick and the top hat drops down onto the bottom hat. And then when I wanted to reconnect, I could just step down on the pedal. It would reconnect the hi-hat, the top hat, and then I would be able to control it again. So that was one way to deal with closing the hat while I have my foot off the pedal. The other way was that I had a permanently set of closed hi-hats, set the distance apart that I wanted on the right side here mounted on the rack. So whenever I wanted to play double bass with the hats, I didn't have to cross over. I always felt more comfortable kind of playing open with my right hand to the right side, doing double bass. So I had a hi-hat over here closed right next to my ride cymbal. Yeah, there are a lot of really cool things that you can do to set that up. I've seen the hi-hat over here on the cable to a separate pedal. So you'd have 3 pedals on the left side, your left side double bass pedal, your actual hi-hat here, and then the cable hi-hat to control the one on the other side. Lots of really cool applications. But yeah, that's a great idea. And that's the thing, right? So we don't have to be limited necessarily by our dominant hand, right? And that's the whole idea of trying to make your hands equal, trying to make your feet equal, and trying to be able to do everything with everything. So we're not limited to a setup, and we can move things around. So really good point. So that song, right? I think you heard me counting a little bit. Sweater Weather by The Neighborhood. Not exactly my cup of tea, but I like the groove. I like the drums. I like the way the song changes near the end. There's a drastic tempo change near the end, and it's pretty cool. I was counting, and then let's go through it a little bit. Jerry, where was the bass drum? Okay, because that happens to be a 2-measure long drum beat, as I see it. It's one way in the first measure, it's different in the second measure. Together, it's one whole drum beat that repeats throughout the song. So as we're listening to the song, this is how it goes. Bass drum on the 1 and of 2. 1 and 2 and. Boom, ba, boom. Right? So the bass drum is going to come right after that snare drum hit on the very next hi-hat. So that would be the and of 2. So the bass drum's on the 1, the and of 2 in the first measure. And then from the and of 2 on till the end of 4 is just hi-hat and snare. There's a snare drum on the 4, the hi-hat continues on. 2 and 3 and 4 and then the entire next measure is just hi-hat and snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 4 on the snare drum. So you'll get this. I'll play it again. So there you have it. When I was talking about silence earlier in the show, there is an example of there's no bass drum in the second measure. In the second half of that 2-measure drum beat, there's no bass drum at all. And there's hardly a bass drum in the first measure. It's on the 1 and the end of 2. That's it. I think it makes for a very cool sounding beat. It's something that's pretty different. And when you listen to it, you're struck by how it's not the conventional, normal type of beat that you're used to hearing in a lot of rock songs, pop songs. And hats off to my students when I put the song on and I ask them what the difference is, what's different about this beat, and they tell me. And then we talk about how we figure out where the bass drums are and how we figure out how many measures it is and how we figure out how the count goes and all of that stuff. So when I hear songs like this, I see this as a way to kind of show my students something different that they may not have heard before. Now we're going to go from the absence of bass drums to the abundance of bass drums, which is also very valid and very legitimate. And also very cool, right? So let me find this other song that I'm thinking about. And the whole idea about all of this discussion is that we should not be limited. We should not be limited. We should not put limitations on ourselves. There's so many different things we can do. And the reason why we listen to music, we listen to different artists, we listen to other drummers, we go to lessons, is to hear all kinds of different things that give us more ideas, that give us more to think about, that say, oh, wow, I can do that? I didn't know I could do that. It's all about opening our minds and discovering new cool things to do. And I'm sure we've all had that moment where we hear a song and there's something different that we haven't heard before on the drums. We go, whoa, what is that? Like when I talked about Neil Peart, and the first time I heard Rush, and I heard drums in a rock song that were a little more than what I was used to hearing. I was listening to AC/DC. I was listening to Black Sabbath. I was listening to Zeppelin. And listen, obviously John Bonham, obviously Bill Ward, phenomenal drummers. But Neil was doing different stuff that I hadn't heard up until then. So it was one of those aha moments. It's like, wow, I can do that in a rock song. Like I can really kind of like be heard a little bit more. I could put myself out there a little bit more. I could be a little more daring with what I do. I can express more than I was used to hearing, right? Compare that to an AC/DC song, you know, and Phil Rudd, great drummer, right? Solid as a rock. Perfect for the band, perfect for the music, one of the biggest rock bands ever. Played to the biggest crowds ever. So really, there's a lot to be said for a style that a drummer takes, their understanding of their role in the band, in the situation. In the case of Phil Rudd, in the case of Ringo Starr even, right? Guys that did a lot with a little. Rolling Stones drummer. I did a tribute to him. Charlie Watts. Sorry, went out of my head for a second. Charlie Watts, I did a tribute. She's a Rainbow. Go check it out on my YouTube channel. It's really cool. It's really fun. Another guy did so much with a little, right? Understated stuff. But anyway, so here is an example of an indie artist. The song I think got big. I don't really know too much about it, but I like the groove. If you notice, it's almost a little behind, right? Almost a tiny bit slow. You feel those drags, you feel those rushes in a song, and it really adds to the way the song feels. But let's listen for a minute. No. Yes, let's listen for a minute. Okay, here we go. Let me know if you've heard this before. Mm-hmm. All right, so here we have an example of quite the opposite. Bass drums on every eighth note ride cymbal, except for the 2 and 4 where the snare are. And certainly you can add that bass drum to the 2 and 4 if you want. But in the song, it's on every other ride cymbal except for the 2 and 4. And so now here we have an example of a lot of different bass drums going on in a groove, and it sounds cool. It sounds cool to me. I like the groove. And so making sure that the first 4 hi-hats of your groove are bass, bass, snare, bass. And then it repeats, bass, bass, snare, bass, 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 snare, bass. Okay, and that is the theme throughout that song. Very, very cool. Now we're going to go, I hope you like this journey through music. We're going to go to another song. And we're going to show you an example of the same groove, right? The same thing, faster. And here we go. I probably should have went further into this song. Hold on. You might know it. Okay. That's so funny. Okay, so that was 505 by Arctic Monkeys. The song before it was Dark Red by Steve Lacy. Again, the same groove, sped up. My point being, again, that adding bass drums in different places can really spice up a groove, can make things interesting. About not playing like on the album, adding complexity. I love, if your question is, Jerry, about not playing like on the album, complexity. I love not playing. I remember actually doing a cover of War Pigs in a local bar when I was young, playing with one of my bands. And the part where you have the hi-hat going, and then the final one, and then after that, there's that fill after every. There was one time where I just went da 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 But right, and people were like, "What?" Like there was no fill there, and I just had this idea: just don't do anything. Just hit those crashes, boom. Which, by the way, I think it's only one crash, and I think the second one is guitar. I think it's just one crash. All these years thinking it's ba right, playing it that way every time I covered the song, and it's funny sometimes how you remember things, and then you listen after a long time, and you're like, wait a minute, it's not like that at all. I swear that was always in there. But anyway, if anybody has any questions about that, or can tell me definitively if it is two crash cymbals in War Pigs, by the way, in my opinion, one of the greatest heavy metal songs ever written. Yes, silence adds tension. It's very, very true. It's very, very true. And what are we in the business of? We are in the business of creating tension and exploding or dropping it down. Like we're bringing that audience on a roller coaster, right? It's like any form of entertainment, any kind of performance. We are bringing the audience along with us on a ride. So if we can create tension and build up to either an explosion or a sudden dropout, whatever it is, right? That's a really good thing. Okay, so any questions, comments, leave them below the video. I want to thank you again for joining me on the MarkZDrumcast. Thank you for everybody who participated in the chat, everybody who asked questions, everybody who was a part of the show and has been a part of the show. Now and moving forward, remember, take a breath, think, evaluate the situation, find your options, your plan of action, and then take action. Unless you have no plan of action, then don't take action, right? Life lessons here on the MarkZDrumcast. I will see you guys on Friday. I think maybe we will do a primetime Drumcast on Friday, maybe around dinner time or after people have gotten home from work. I will keep you guys posted on that. And listen, visit my socials, like, subscribe, follow, share, everything you possibly can. Thank you so much. Leave me comments, feedback, whatever it is. I'm open to hearing it, and I appreciate your support. With that, we are going to sign off. Go ahead to my Patreon. I've added stickers, really cool stickers, to the list of perks that you get if you become a Patreon member. It's $3 a month. My Patreon is now up, live, and running. I am currently adding content to it as we speak. So thank you so much for your support.